Hi everyone, I'm Rosemarie Miller and I am backstage at the Forbes 30 Under 30 Summit here with Jordan Cooper, actor, writer, showrunner. Am I missing anything?
No, that's all it.
Yeah, all right. So Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Awesome, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, you are the youngest Black TV showrunner in history and the youngest Black American playwright in history.
Yeah.
Is that intentional? Were you like pursuing that or were you just living your dreams?
No, I was just living my dreams, you know, and then like Broadway happened and then TV happened and it just all kind of came together at the right time. I'm just so grateful because I've been working since I was like 7 years old, you know, putting on plays in my mom's living room, then going to the backyard and then moving from the backyard to the church. Then when the plays got too raunchy for the church, then I had to move on to like rec centers and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I've just been working for as long as I can remember. Mm-hmm. And so it's crazy to like that it's all cut up to me because I started so early that now it's like all these titles of the youngest this and the youngest that. It's just, I'm just so grateful.
And you knew this is what you wanted to do since you were a little kid.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not good at nothing else.
So there was no plan B. Nobody was ever like, nah, you need to go pursue.
No, because it was really all I knew. Like literally was all I knew, to the point where when I was at elementary school, my mom sent me a picture the other day because I was like my third grade math homework. And I remember I used to convince my teachers to let me write my homework as a script so that way they could understand that I was getting what I needed to get, but I had to do it in the form of storytelling, in the form of like writing a play or writing a movie. And it was just, my brain always worked that way. It was crazy.
Were there any teachers who saw you, who just believed in you from an early age?
Absolutely. There were teachers who early on, there were teachers who didn't really get me because I'm from Texas, and it's not really an art-centered area, you know, it's very football. So I was the odd kid, right? And I always was talkative. I was always writing. I was always doing stuff. So there were some teachers who, you know, labeled me as the bad kid because I couldn't, you know, focus in the same way that everybody else did. And then at a certain point, there was a teacher two teachers really, who just really saw what I wanted to do, and they made deals with me. They were like, okay, if you get an A on this paper, then you could host the school talent show this year, right? And so I would go on and I'll host the talent show, and I would be able to do my stand-up and do all these different things and really be able to move in the lane that I wanted to move in. So I that's all I know how to do, and I'm just so grateful that you know, it works out and people actually love what I have to put out, you know.
Yeah. Do you want to give those teachers a shout out?
Yes, Miss Ty and Miss Lewis. Thank you.
Jordan, let's move forward. So you're in school, you're writing plays as your homework assignment. What's next?
Yeah. Then I go to high school. And I was so excited to go to high school because I thought, you know, because I made the theater department, the drama club in my junior high. So I was like, oh, high school, you know, there's a theater class. I don't have to do that much work anymore. So I get to the theater class and it's me and this other girl. Her name is Serafina. We were the only two Black students in the entire theater department. And we were so excited to audition for this fall show because everybody wants to be in the fall show. So we auditioned, and the teacher pulls us both aside, and she tells me, she's like, Jordan, you're such a great actor. You're so good, but this role just isn't right for you. You're not right for this play. Then she pulls Serafina aside and says, Serafina, you know, you're such a great actress. You're so good. But in this role, you would have to be romantic with a white boy on stage, and it would look like peanut butter and tuna on stage together. Verbatim. Yeah. And I remember being so upset that my natural reaction was to retaliate, and my form of retaliation was I wrote a play, and I casted Serafina, and I got the prettiest white boy in school to be her husband, and we did that play, and I made her like $600, $700 off of $2 tickets in a weekend, and that play actually was seen by a local theater company, and they ended up putting on that show. And bought it from me. I was 16. That was my first professionally produced production. Yeah. And that all came from, you know, rising from adversity in that way, you know. Mm-hmm. So there was always, you know, this kind of entrepreneurial, I'm gonna do it myself kind of attitude. And I moved from that, then I started working at local theaters and like doing costumes and wigs and running the lights and building the sets and doing all these things, which now all comes in handy now that I'm a showrunner of a television show, but because I have to manage all these different departments, all these different, you know, hair, makeup, lighting, sets, you know, all these different things, and I'm able to.
Stop you right there.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to you saying you and Serafina were the only other Black people there.
Oh, yeah.
What is that like? Because I'm sure you have experiences throughout your life of just being the only. Is there a pressure to that?
Yeah. Not necessarily. I think that I feel like the pressure is usually on other people. But for me, I always just knew that I could only be myself in the space. I'd rather not be if I can't be myself.
And who are you?
And I am an innovator. I am a truth teller. I am a storyteller. I am an activist. I am a room shaker. And those are things that, you know, I've learned to pick up along the way based off of being the only or having to create spaces for more people who look like me or didn't look like me to be able to inhabit spaces that didn't exist before I walked in the room, you know? And I think that that's my thing, is I always say I want to be known for leaving doors wide open, you know? I want to burst the ceiling and leave that hole open and put a traffic light up there so people know where to go. You know?
So aside from, you know, being black, I'm black, I get it. Aside being black,
right.
What other challenges have you had to overcome on your journey to being who you are today?
So a lot of it really comes from the kind of work that I like to make. I love to, like I said, truth teller, storyteller. I love to do things. I love human beings, first of all. And I love to present human beings in authentic lights that doesn't necessarily always hold space on television or film or on stage for that level of authenticity. And so a lot of I've been thinking about this a lot. Like every step that I made in my career, there was always some adversity. There was always someone telling me that, oh, you can't do it like that. That's not how we do this. That's not how we do that. Oh, you can't say that. You can't write that. Or that's not how we move, right? And I've realized that a lot of where I am right now in my life comes from me just ignoring the adversity, ignoring what people say can't happen just because it's never happened before, you know? Like, for instance, like I created this sitcom that I was told is very out there. It is very R-rated and very, you know, it's an R-rated family sitcom, but I was told that, oh, we can't show things like this, or we can't do things like this, right? And then it went on to earn 2 Emmy nominations, you know what I mean? The first for that network, BET, in 40 years, you know? And I think that just comes from never taking no for an answer. If you believe in something, you know, never change the recipe before your people taste the cake. You know, if you believe in it, really push for it. Never take no for an answer. And create your own lane. Don't wait for anybody to give you permission to do a thing, you know? From the time I was a kid, there was always people telling me I couldn't. Or people telling me, you know, stay in a child's place, right?
Oh, I heard that one.
I
heard
stay
that.
in a child's place. And if I had stayed in a child's place, you know, I wouldn't be where I am now, you know?
And I want to know about the money part of this as well. So, what you're doing, everybody doesn't see money so quickly. How did you navigate that?
Really, you know, it was a big jump for me because before I did TV, a lot of my money came from, you know, doing gigs here and there, but it wasn't necessarily sustainable as a lifestyle. It was one of those things where it's like, oh, you're gonna have to get, you know what I mean, a regular job. And I told my mom wanted me to like apply to all these jobs. I was like, no, it's gonna work. And I was just doing what I had to do. Like I would be an extra on films that I still haven't even seen, you know what I mean? Just to be able to pay the rent. And then when I wrote my play Ain't No Mo, which is a play that went to Broadway, but early on, before it went to Broadway, when I wrote it, I just put it on. And a theater came and saw it, and they invested in it. They were like, we want to do this, right? And then from me doing that workshop by myself, then Lee Daniels ends up coming and seeing the project. And he's like, who is this writer? What is this, right? And so I end up writing on one of his shows right out of college, because I created the space for myself. And from there, I was like a 22-year-old making, you know what I mean, making television money, right? And a lot of
Jordan, you make it sound so easy, all right? I just wrote this play, and then give us some steps for somebody who wants to do this. Give us the steps. The casting, how did it happen?
Oh, you want the story?
Yes.
Okay, so I wrote this play in the summer of 2016, and it was really from my own pain of, you know, Philando Castile and Alton Sterling got murdered within a week of each other, And I'm somebody, I always say, I feel pain, but I always, have to find the joy. I have to find the laughter. I have to find the absurdity in a thing, right? I always say I'm that person at a funeral who is laughing because it's like, why is she wearing a bra and she's going 6 feet under? Let her live. Jesus will let her be free, okay? And so I wrote this out of pain, right? This play. And I remember when I first tried to send it around to get it produced places, people told me, this isn't a play. This isn't American theater. We don't know what to do with this, right? Mm-hmm. And I heard that many a times.
What's many a times?
At least 6 times. Okay. From that exact same play. And turned down. And then finally I was like, it's not necessarily for these spaces. It's my mission to get it to the people. Mm-hmm. And my way of getting it to the people was finding spaces to do it. So I had a friend who was working at the 20 New York Theater Workshop. He was doing like a director's fellowship. And he was like, yo, I've seen you've been doing these readings around town that we've been working on this play. Do you mind if I do this play as one of my presentations just as a director? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I don't know if they're gonna mess with it because it's, we've been told it's not a play. So it's like, I don't know. So get that, and I get people who I know in my life. There's one actress who I've known since I was 14 back in Texas, who I got her to come to New York because I was like, yo, I wrote this play and I think you would be really good, you know what I mean? She was debating whether or not to get to New York, and then there were also other people who I was in school with, going to college with, and I was like, hey, I wrote this play, would you come and just do this thing, right? And so we did it, and I probably had at least like 5 different readings. I went to HBCUs, I went to Atlanta, and went to Morehouse and Clark Atlanta University and did things there. I did things at Blackboard Plays, and then this Fire This Time Festival. I found all these little spaces of exposure where I wasn't necessarily depending on other people, but I was creating a space for myself to exude what it was that I wanted to make. Yeah. So that way, if anybody else wanted to find it valuable, they can find it valuable. But I had to make the lane for myself, even though it wasn't really bringing me money. You know what I mean? It was more so just literally exposure in New York City. And so from that point on, then a theater manager came and saw one of the readings. And then I get an email, mind you, I'm in college. I get an email saying, hey, so-and-so was at this show and would love to like speak with you, right? So I'm like, oh wow, okay, right? So I met with him. It was Jack Phillips Moore at the Public Theater, and he just said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to tell stories, and this play is super important to me. And I was like, I've been told that a lot of people don't understand it or they won't get it, but I'm going to do it regardless, and I'm grateful that you saw it, but I'm not necessarily depending on this. And he was like, no, we want to do this play. This is something fresh. This is something new. Let's do it. And from there began my relationship. Wow, in that moment, I felt seen. Yeah, I felt seen. I felt like it wasn't in vain because, I spent so much of my early part of New York City putting on shows in classrooms and doing things like that, but I would stand in Times Square and I would hand out flyers. I would go on subways and I would hand out flyers and really just hustle and market the way I knew how, right? Yeah. And to think that now I have an institution that is saying, we see value in what you're doing, It's cool because it's like, you're not necessarily waiting for that moment, or at least I wasn't necessarily waiting for that moment because I saw value in myself, so I was doing it. But
actually, he saw value in himself. Yeah. He saw value in yourself. Yeah. And that's what kept you going. Before anybody else saw you, right. That's what kept you going.
That's the magic, because you have to see it in yourself before anybody else will validate you or your existence or your being. Yeah. It belongs to you. The idea came to you, right? So you can't throw it away. And I feel like as humans, we tend to do this just because, we feel crazy if we have this idea or we want to do this thing this way. And other people are like, I don't get it. I don't see it. I don't, And it's up to you to hold on to that thing, right? Hold on to that thing that you've been given. Believe in it before anybody else does, because you're going to teach them what to think. You're going to teach the world what to think about your product. You're going to teach the world what to think about your business. And I feel like me seeing value in my own work and putting it forward before anybody else could see it was that, you know? And a lot of the work was sending thousands of emails, literally thousands of emails early on saying, hey, I'm having this reading, you know, hitting up all these different theaters and directors and producers and people saying, hey, I have this thing, just come check it out. One of the things that people come up to me about a lot is they ask, how do you break in, or how do I break in, or how do I do the thing? You know, and they say, hey, I want to be a part of your show. How can I get on your show? How can I? And my thing is like, don't wait for me. Don't wait for me. Invite me to your show. Invite me to look at this film that you made. Invite me to watch this thing that you've already done for yourself. So then I can see it and recognize the validation that you've given yourself. Therefore, I can follow your lead, you know? And I think that was always my goal in everything that I did. I never waited for a handout. You know what I mean? I always had to make it work, or make it twerk, as I like to say. I had to make it twerk, you know?
So you got this email.
Yeah.
All right, what happens?
Got this email, then meet with him, and he's like, we would love to develop this play here. So I developed the play there. Mind you, I'm going back and forth to school while I'm like doing a workshop. And then Lee Daniels ends up coming to see a workshop. He hears about it, right? Hears about it from this is a funny story, from my agent, or a guy who wanted to be my agent at the time. His name was Kevin Lynn. So at CAA. So when I was doing one of my plays, that exact same play earlier, I didn't know how the business worked. So I didn't know how you got agents. I thought, okay, maybe I'll just invite somebody. So I call CAA.
You just picking up the phone, calling, you sit out.
Listen, doing it, hey, come. And so I call CAA, and the lady's like, who can I direct you to? And I'm like, is this CAA? She's like, yes. I was like, oh, I just wanted to invite, you know, someone out to my place. She was like, oh, well, you have to have a connect. Like, we don't really take things like that. We don't really take. And so I was like, oh, okay, right? Bye, click, I guess. And then the idea for that same play to end up getting in the hands of someone, or someone hearing about it, or going to one of my readings and hearing about it and saying, hey, who are you? We would love to represent you. This exact same company that I called and was told, we don't, that's not how we
don't do it like,
right.
Came to you.
Came to me.
Yeah.
And said, we wanna help represent you, because I didn't have an agent at that time. So a lot of the work was like meeting with different agents and going to dinners and doing, you know what I mean? That's the best part. Listen, if you ever are meeting a lawyer or an agent or anything, the best part is free food, okay? Because I was broke. I was eating my 4 for 4s at Wendy's. I did what I could, but the best part, that's why you meet with every agent you can. Okay, free food. No, but going on all these dinners, and I finally found the right person for me, and I hadn't chosen him yet. But he said, hey, you mind if I share your script around? It's like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. You know, he's like, I'm having brunch with Lee Daniels tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, that's your brunch. I ain't invite, you know what I mean? I'm not a name drop person. If you name drop, I'm like, okay, all right, thank you, you know? And then I get an email saying that, you know, Lee Daniels wants to meet with you, right? And I'm scared at that point, because this is around Harvey Weinstein or all that stuff. So I'm like, child, what? I heard Hollywood was weird. So I'm like, what is going on? No, but I ended up meeting him, and he was just such the kindest spirit, the kindest, most genuine spirit. And he said, I see in you what I want to be.
I see in you what I want to be. What did he mean by that? He
meant the fearlessness that I talked about earlier. And I think that's a generational thing.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning that specifically, you know, being Black and being queer too, like this idea that like he couldn't always say what he wanted to say. He couldn't always do what he wanted to do in his work because people weren't ready for it. They didn't know how to move. So he kind of had to shift his own work to be a little bit more palatable in some ways, right? And I think that when he met me, I was of this new generation in the path that he paved of, hey, I don't have to cater to what people think I should be doing. I can kind of just move fearlessly at my age, because now he's at an age where he can be as fearless as he wants to be. But when we met, I was about like 22, you know, 21, 22. And he read that play, and he was just like, how are you that bold?
And how are you that bold?
How am I that bold? I think that I just, going back to like those plays that I used to write when I was a kid, I always tell people, like, so my mom asked the pastor if I could put on my plays after church when I was little. He said, yeah, but I got in trouble because I would like take whatever the church gossip was, like so-and-so, sister so-and-so, so-and-so. Yes, I did.
No, you did
I
not
would
tell people business in the play, Jordan.
I did, and I would put it in the play, and they would hit my mama up and be like, if you don't tell this boy to stop writing, and I know the mindset, why say it if you don't want it in the play? You know what I mean? So it was just, I just always had this interest of telling the truth. If there's no other space where we can tell the truth, we can do it in art. We can do it in art. And I think that I've just taken that my entire life, and that's why Ain't No Mo is so bold. Also because it's theater, but it's not in the traditional American theater. Because where I grew up, you know, before I was exposed to like the Shakespeare's and the Stephen Sondheims and the David Ives and all these amazing playwrights of the traditional American theater, August Wilson, I was exposed to Chitlin Circuit Theater. Mm-hmm. I was exposed to like the Jakaris Johnsons and the Tyler Perrys and the, you know, because that's all that was happening in my neighborhood. They would be passing around these bootleg VHS tapes, right? Mm-hmm. And so I remember I was in the front and I was watching SpongeBob SquarePants and I heard my parents screaming in the back. And I was like, what is going on? Like, did my daddy beat my mama? What's going on? So I go to the back and they're howling, just laughing. And I'm looking at what they're laughing at. And they're laughing at an old Tyler Perry play. Oh. And I'm looking, I'm like, that's what I do in the living room. Yeah. He has lights, he has costumes, he has this, he has that, right?
Is he one of the first people you looked up to?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it was this idea that like, he was writing outside of the white gaze, outside of the American theater gaze, outside of the Western gaze, right? And I think I don't have no interest in doing, you know, his work or his kind of work, but what it gave me was permission to be free. And liberated. If this man can do whatever he wants to do and people come, I'm not worried about whether or not a certain audience will understand, you know? I always tell the story, I was saying this on the panel as well, like I remember when Ain't No Mo first went up, people were reviewing it and one of the reviews was, you know, it's so good, but you know, there were so many colloquialisms that went by so fast and I just couldn't, you know, and I couldn't keep up. And my mind was like, how many times have I sat in the American theater and sat in a Neil Simon play, or sat in a Shakespeare play, or sat in a David Mamet play, and so many colloquialisms is going by so fast, but I have to meet the work where the work is. Right. But the American theater and America in general is just not used to meeting a lot of minorities where they are, right? And until we can do that for each other, there's always gonna be this gap of understanding. There's always going to be this gap of communication, right? And I think that is just empathy that I love to kind of poke at in my work, that we have to be empathetic toward ourselves, toward each other. But it's like, you know, you may not get the direct invite, but the door is open. If you want to come in and get some food, you know what I mean? You want to come in and get some food, have a drink, have a good time, we're going to dance, we're going to have a good time, right? But for so long, we weren't always extended the invite. So,
and speaking of invites, when you got that invite from Lee Daniels, was that the moment where you thought, I made it?
Not really. I mean, I feel like there was an element of there's somebody who does what I want to do, who knows my name. There was an element of that.
So when did you feel like you made it?
I still don't feel like I made it.
You still don't feel like you made it?
No, I feel like I'm one of those people where I have to continuously work like this, because I feel like once I start to feel like, oh, I made it, then what else am I trying to make?
Right.
Made it means you've made your destination, you've reached your destination.
And you have not reached your destination.
I have not reached my destination.
So what is next for Jordan Cooper?
What isn't? What isn't? No, I want to do more. I want to do more on a larger scale. I want to expand my territory. I want to expand my audience. I want to be able to get a worldwide audience, and specifically the same work that Ain't No Mo was doing on a theater on 44th Street, I want to do in the homes of everybody in America. You know, I want to be able to have those hard conversations and be able to, which is what I do with the television show that I do have. You know, it's really putting conversations in living rooms where they otherwise would have never happened.
They never would.
You know, because then somebody might catch on to something and see themselves, and now they know how to approach work. Like one of the greatest compliments that I've gotten was that there was this child who had this kind of tension with their mother for the past 20 years, and their mother was just watching an episode of one of my works, and when the credits were rolling, their mother turned to them and was like, "So is that what you meant 15 years ago. And all of a sudden they were seen for the first time, you know? And I think that is the work for me, is helping myself and helping others be seen and understood.
Helping yourself and helping others be seen.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank you. Awesome.